Hey, podcast listeners. Today we're going to talk about the dangers of keeping it all inside, which the technical word for is alexithymia. That word just means that we're not talking about our feelings, but I like the definition, keeping it all inside. I think that is the best one I have heard. So numerous studies have shown a causal relationship between alexithymia and suppressed immune function. A recent study that was published in the Journal of Psychiatry or Frontiers in Psychiatry in 2021 demonstrated that healthy young women who were alexithymic were more likely to have decreased immune function over the long term than healthy young women who were not alexithymic. A chronically compromised immune system puts us at significantly greater risk of cancer. And today's episode is a story of how this played out in real life. Keeping it all inside can cost us our very lives. My childhood best friend, Julie, died about 13 years ago now. And I recently decided to write a letter to her for myself to have a measure of coherence and closure. My goal in sharing my goodbye letter with you today, listeners, is to unearth the meaning of Julie's life so we can all derive wisdom from it. Her death was unnecessary and resulted from her commitment to living in denial, which entails keeping it all inside. I know Julie would want others to avoid that same path, and thus I share my letter with you today. Dear Julie, your story is a cautionary tale, and I know it well. Let's start at the beginning so it can make the most sense. When we first met, when we were both 11 years old, I now see in retrospect that you were already enmeshed with your mother. You were the all good child. And this explains why your brother, the all bad child, was always so angry. Your mother showed you the overt favoritism, and like many other all good children, you were shaped into a codependent. When you died 13 years ago, everyone remarked that you were always laughing or making others laugh. It's true, and because of that, everyone loved you. You were silly and playful, easygoing and patient. You were easy to be around, and because of your tolerance, you never gave up on people. You attracted a lot of toxic friends, myself included. I thank God you never gave up on me, Julie, but I sure wish you'd learn to give up on some other people. Your friendship throughout my childhood gave me the sense of stability that I desperately needed, and I so appreciated your listening ear. You reminded me of my grandfather, who was the rock of my early childhood, and how after he left my life when I was 10 years old, I had 2 nervous breakdowns. Your stability helped to pick up where he left off and to give me sanity. Yet what I did not see then was that behind your laughter, there was so much pain. I didn't know what enmeshment was or how deadly it could be. I was jealous of your relationship with your parents because they seemed so much closer than mine. And you seemed so much happier as a result. In retrospect, I now see how your mom shaped you to be the great listener you were by expecting you to always listen and empathize with her and making you her confidant. She conditioned you to feel empathy for other people's feelings because she taught you to feel empathy for her, but not for you. You learned how to dissociate from your anger because she would not tolerate your boundaries with her. She was allowed to be angry, but you were not. Starting in middle school, she shared confidential information with you about kids from school who spent time in juvenile hall where she worked. You didn't want to know this, nor should you have. She conditioned you to follow her footsteps into social work because she overshared her work experiences with you. When she was planning to divorce your father, you were living at home temporarily during that time because you had just returned from the Peace Corps. She took advantage of this by using you as her sounding board for her rage at him, not stopping to think what it would do to you to hear all these horrible things about your father during that time. That's when you became a workaholic, working 80 hours a week just to have a boundary with her, rather than confront her directly. Now I understand why you reacted when you did when she died unexpectedly during that year. You went into denial because you refused to do the painful work of finally facing your anger with her. And so you spontaneously married the man that you dated while you had been in the Peace Corps, who was no good. You used Jimmy and your new marriage to him as a way to dissociate from your mother's death. But Jimmy was abusive, philandering, and altogether untrustworthy. You didn't want to acknowledge this, so you pursued starting a family and proceeded to have 2 beautiful children with him. Yet, right when your second was born, Jimmy was indicted for molesting your 4-year-old niece. You knew as a child protection social worker how uncommon it is for a 4-year-old to lie about something like this, and yet you chose to believe that she was lying and chose to believe Jimmy was innocent, even while confiding to me that you would check your young toddler daughter's diaper for signs of sexual abuse from Jimmy during that time. You chose denial, and it cost you the relationship with your brother and his family as they accused you of enabling your husband. I watched you fall into depression, and there was no more laughter or silliness, and you gained about 80 pounds. Then you lost a good friend from college, Michelle, who told you that she was working on her marriage and therefore could not afford to be around Jimmy, insinuating that they had some kind of secret relationship, but she refused to tell you outright, which you attended with your good friend Tom and his new wife, Tammy. After you and the young kids fell asleep, Jimmy stayed up drinking with Tammy and ultimately having sex with her just a few mere yards away from where you were sleeping with the kids in your tent. It was the end of Tom and Tammy's new marriage. When I heard this, I staged an intervention to help you to leave Jimmy. Me and 2 other friends came together to tell you how concerned we were for you and the children, but you chose not to listen. Our relationship was never the same after this, and your disposition toward me became colder. Your depression now exacerbated. You gained more weight, and shortly thereafter, you were diagnosed with cancer. Even though pancreatic cancer is nearly always terminal and spreads very quickly, you attempted to fight it for nearly 2 years. When you finally called me to tell me that you were on palliative care because death was imminent, I cried, but only for a moment, because the truth was I had lost you years before. At that point, you hadn't been alive inside for so long, and I had already grieved the Julie that I had known and loved. I was angry at you for leaving me years before and becoming so dissociative, which reminded me of my mother. You chose the false comfort of denial to the pain of staying alive inside, and it ultimately did you in. I was angry at your foolishness, which hurt everyone, myself included. You never gave up on people, Julie, and as grateful as I am, because there was a time when this would have included me, it is a double-edged sword because it caused you to lose yourself. I have since heard enough stories about how common it is for codependents to develop cancer because they are unwilling to separate themselves from toxic people. As a nutritionist, I used to teach that toxic substances cause cancer. And now as a therapist, I teach that toxic people do the same. I am sharing your story so others can learn before it's too late. It's truly a cautionary tale, but I know you would want other codependents to beware, to unlearn the lies they were conditioned to believe by their parents, and to learn that their boundaries will not cause them to be abandoned and alone, but only by toxic people. You'd want them to know that they are only responsible for their feelings, and they are responsible to others, but never for them. To see you have to choose to be responsible for yourself. And it's the most important choice you could ever make. That as beautiful as empathy is, it can easily be weaponized and to guard against us at all cost. We need to have empathy for ourselves in order to be whole and complete. You'd say what's most important is being true to ourselves and giving ourselves our own approval so that we can be free to disappoint the hell out of everyone else, to heal our relationship with ourselves so that we're no longer afraid to be alone. Julie, thank you for all the years you helped me stay alive inside. I wish you had done the same. It's a lot of work, and it is not for the faint in heart, but there's just no real alternative. Holding it all inside is ultimately fatal. Life is too short to allow ourselves to be dead for a single moment. Let our life be full of life, because life is precious. Thank you for listening, friends.